Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Peter Conti, and I'm Sales and Marketing Director for Local Media Association. And today's presentation is 3 fresh ideas to market and monetize your news media brand. Our presenter is Kevin Rieberg. He's the Director of Client Development for the Alliance for Audited Media. Oops, we got a little problem there with the slide. Let me correct that. Okay, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and our LinkedIn group called Local Media Trends. Now, this webinar and a PDF of the presentation will be made available on our site a little later. We'll send you an email and a link to access both of them, or you can go to the page shown here in just a few hours. A few housekeeping items first. We'll leave some time at the end of the webinar to respond to questions, and you can ask a question by using the question box located on the GoToWebinar dashboard, which is usually located on the right side of your screen. We also have a brief survey at the end, so we hope you take a minute to give us some feedback. And we're going to change the presenter now to Kevin, and we'll get started with the webinar. Hello, Kevin.
Hi, Peter. Thank you, everyone, for attending. It looks like everyone can see my screen now, so that's good. We navigated the handoff successfully. That can be a challenge sometimes, so good there. Why don't we go ahead and get started? A little about myself, if you're not familiar with me or if we haven't had interactions already. I've been in the media industry for a little over 17 years now. It's weird saying that because the time flies by so quickly. The bulk of my time in the media industry was spent managing the Alliance for Audited Media's research auditing division. And I did that for about 10 years. Saw some really interesting things. My primary role in that responsibility was to make sure that our newspaper or news media clients, that the readership and the market research studies that they were conducting with third-party research houses, that those were done in accordance with the stated methodology. So we would go out, and my team of auditors, we would actually go to the locations, went to dozens and dozens of dial centers, saw some really interesting things, lots of good things, some bad things, and lots of stuff in between. It was a pretty interesting job. Some pretty funny stories out of some of these some of the more questionable dial centers that some of the news media organizations have engaged over the years. But all in all, it was a really great way to learn more about your organizations and to really figure out or to really learn about the impact that you have on your market, because this market research, it shows in black and white what that reaches into the marketplace and how dynamic your interaction is with your customers. So I got that kind of firsthand look at it. In my current role with AAM, it's to help news media organizations like yourself to fully monetize your audience, to understand your audience and make sure that it gets in front of as many media buyers as possible, and that that data is as valuable as possible. And that's what we're going to be talking about here today too. There are 3 kind of takeaways that I want to go through with all of you today. The first is how your relationship with your audience can be leveraged. The second is how you can take that relationship with your advertisers and take that to the next level also. And then lastly, I want to talk about some actionable steps that you can take to drive new advertising revenue through the door. So not so much improve the partnerships that you currently have, but drive some new partnerships and get some new advertising revenue opportunity. So we'll kind of walk through those 3 things here and discuss some points in the state of the industry along the way too. The news media industry, really over the last 20 years, it can be described with one word: transformational. We seem to be seeing a light at the end of the tunnel, whereas other forms of media are just starting their disruption. At AAM, we represent over 2,700 publishers, news media organizations, magazines, B2B publications. They all rely on us to get their data out into the marketplace. So we have a bit of a catbird seat here where we can see industry trends, and we just in discussing with our members one-on-one, we can see some of these trends really tip of the spear as they begin to develop. And I say light at the end of the tunnel because compared to some of your competitors in television and radio, you're much further down the road to being where you want to be for the 21st century compared to them. Cord cutting is eating away at the traditional TV model. That's a narrative that's just picking up steam. That's a floor that really hasn't fallen out of the television market yet. Netflix, Hulu, and whatever other disruptors are going to be coming down the pipe here are really going to take a toll on the television market in a negative way. And then on the radio side, we have music apps that have been out for 10 plus years now. Those are fully mature, and podcasts also. Both of those things are really taking the place of traditional radio. I don't know about you, but I can't remember the last time that I just long form left the radio on. I mean, unless I'm just running to the store real quick and back. I'm listening to podcasts. I have Pandora on. I have Spotify. Anything to get around the commercials and the weather reports that never change, that are every 15 minutes of the traditional radio format. So the good news for you is that you're ahead of that curve. You're over those humps, and like I said, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. For the news media industry. And a big reason for that is because of the channels that you've developed that are now coming to maturity and really coming together. You have your corporate, your weekly shoppers, websites, apps, newsletters. All these things are, like I said, they're really coming together. And then on top of that, your social media outreach, your social media channels, that's driving your consumers to your content and your advertisers, both nationally and locally. So you're really getting that symbiotic relationship together, and we're starting to see it on our side as far as media spend and just the way that our member organizations are really picking up steam in a number of different ways. So some good news there. It's said often the only constant now is change in media. We've all heard it 100 times. News media organizations are the best leverage to take advantage of the shift in media consumption. And that's primarily because of your brand recognition and your tremendous reach that I spoke to when I was speaking about my background. Your reach into your local markets, that hyper-local focus. No other form of media or competitor, none of them have the market reach that you do. And that's really what we're trying to do here at AAM is, and what we're doing is making sure that the focus is on that unprecedented reach and interaction in the market. All that said, there's still plenty of challenges out there. There's still plenty of competition, and we're seeing some competition in areas that we haven't seen in a long time. We're seeing new hyper-local news media organizations pop up across the country. So communities that were 2 or 3 newspaper towns shrunk down to a single newspaper town, a news media organization. And if that news media organization wasn't doing a good job or isn't doing a good job of connecting with the community, competitors are popping up and doing the exact same thing. So we're kind of seeing a reversal here where some of these markets, especially markets where the consumers see themselves as being underserved, they're ready and willing to see new competitors kind of take hold in the marketplace. And that can happen dynamically because of those social media channels. On top of the competition that is starting to pick up, there's also juggling all of your channels so that they stay on the same page. Making sure the left hand knows what the right hand is doing. Print, digital, newsletter, all those things, they work best when they're optimized and they know what they're doing. So it's really a left hand, right hand challenge there. And then the third challenge is fake news. And this is especially at the digital level, where you're competing with a growing segment of news sites that operate with no journalistic standards whatsoever. They have clickbait headlines, one-sided, sensational, exaggerated content. Now this typically is not, it rarely is at the hyper-local level. So on some level you're insulated in that regard, but you're still competing for digital advertising dollars against those types of sites, you know, in the digital ad space. So it's still a challenge. There's still a competitor, and you know, beyond that, brand safety is also a renewed concern with advertisers. So I'll lump that in with fake news. Given what happened with JP Morgan Chase, they kind of kicked all this off when they realized one of their digital advertisements was on a heavily political, sort of on one end of the extreme website, and they were called out on it in social media. So it really forced them to kind of take a look at ads or at brand safety, and that drove or is driving an industry discussion in that regard. The good news there is that, like I said, hyperlocal really not challenged in the same capacity, but and the good news there is you're in an excellent position to profit off of that discussion. And then the fourth challenge that I wanted to mention here is advertising fraud. Now, you may not think that this affects you, but it most certainly does. Digital advertising is an $83 billion a year industry this year. And now if you carve out Facebook's chunk of that pie, and if you carve out Google's chunk of that pie, you're still left with $30 billion that's on the table for publishers, for digital publishers like yourself. Upwards of half of that $30 billion is being funneled off to digital ad fraud. So you're losing upwards of half of your potential revenue on the digital side, thanks to bots, malware, and a whole ecosystem of digital ad fraud that I could do an hour webinar just on that and what AAM is doing about it. But I did want to mention that as one of the challenges here as well. So to look at these challenges and overcome them, what are the two most valuable aspects of your brand that you can leverage with advertisers? Number one, and the biggest thing that you're going for right now is trust. Chances are fantastic that your brand is widely regarded as the #1 source of local news and information. Television and radio don't have that connection because they're viewed more as entertainment than informational. You know, when it's entertainment, that you're not getting that same level of connection that your brands can provide into the marketplace. Plus, you have that social media driver that gets current events, that gets stories that happened 3 hours ago, 2 hours ago, 1 hour ago, that gets onto people's mobile phones, that click on it, and it drives them right through to your latest breaking news with the advertisements accompanying that. You know, through your multiple channels, your audience has really become conditioned to look to you as the best source of information in your market. So don't underestimate that value of that trust and of brand safety as well, even at the local level. Advertisers want to be associated with that trust, and they're willing to pay a premium to do it. AAM is a testament to the fact that advertisers will pay a premium for brand safe, verified content. The second thing that you have going for you here is local influence. You're the source of news for your local markets. Nobody else covers the markets like you do. About 5 years ago, I wanted to get more involved in my community, so I ran for village board. Got elected and learned real fast that the only two media outlets that cover local government were the two news media organizations, the two newspapers in my area out here in the suburbs of Chicago. Television didn't touch it, radio didn't touch it, but people are deeply involved and they really want to know what's going on at the local level. News media organizations, those two news media organizations are the only two providing the content, letting the residents know where their tax dollars are being spent. It's a very compelling story, and it's content that is constantly refreshing and regenerating after every meeting and after every vote. It's great content to get out there. So, you know, you don't see that with any other form of media. If those two news media organizations were to go away, there'd be virtually no accountability getting out into the local market, to the residents. You know, there are laws, open meetings, and agendas and things like that, but people don't have the time to go through that. They trust that if something happens, your organization is going to be reporting on it. And by and large, they're correct. You have the staff that is trained to recognize when a story is developing or when something that could be a story that's buried in a municipal agenda. Your team of experts can pull that out, create a story, wrap some advertising around it, and get it out into the marketplace. So a huge amount of influence there, something that I'm intimately familiar with. And you know, without you, it would be a golden age of corruption out there, even at the local level. So something to really consider, including a quote here about your trust and how it matters to publications. This is from Bethany Turner, who is the Marketing and Events Manager at the Kansas City Star. Advertisers appreciate that we're providing readers with quality content. Knowing that we're there for the community makes them feel good about advertising with us. That's a really compelling statement, and it really projects the value statement on the publication side. You know, just the community needs to know that you're there, and they see that on a daily basis in their social media feeds. Using credible data is another important step to making sure that the advertisers have that same level of assurance that the community has. And this is a great quote from Danielle Bateman Giordano at Save-A-Lot. And she said that we need to trust the data that we're using to make multi-million-dollar decisions. Verified information helps us make those decisions on media mix, spend, and placement with confidence. It's incredibly important to have verified metrics in both print and digital media. Let's get into that a little bit more. If you're not familiar with AAM, we've been in the industry for over 100 years. We were founded to provide a very simple solution to a complicated problem, that of media credibility. And media credibility is still just as much an issue today as it was 100 years ago when the organization was formed. It's just the mode has changed a little bit from print to digital, but that accountability and that credibility is still a huge issue with advertisers. AAM exists to add value to your data and then by extension to your audience, which drives the advertiser confidence, as they either will only buy off of verified data or they will pay a premium for verified data. So it's kind of a one or the other type thing. But the advertisers, you know, money talks, and the advertisers demonstrate on a daily basis that that they want that assurance from you, the local media organizations, that you know, that your reporting is true, is accurate. Let's go into AAM a little bit further and how we help companies gain trust with local advertisers. What we really exist to do, we're here to help drive those advertising dollars even at the local level. Local advertisers, they may not be familiar with AAM, but they understand the value of independent third-party verified promotion, especially versus your competitors who are simply handing out media kits. You know, those media kits, oftentimes, I'm sure you've all seen them, they contain some pretty outlandish claims in them, and they're the types of things that they're claims that kind of discredit the whole rest of the media kit. When you have AAM data and you're presenting AAM data, you don't run into that problem because it's a third party. Even at the local level, they get that. There's a halo effect there to adhering to best practices and being verified. The AAM ecosystem stretches out kind of, we'll put it into sort of three spheres here that expand out. The primary AAM channel is the Media Intelligence Center. So those 2,700 media organizations, publications, they report their metrics that they sell with through the Media Intelligence Center. Media buyers then go into, we'll call it the MIC for short, media buyers then go into the MIC and they will discover brands, large, small. They'll type in a zip code that they want to penetrate, and it will list every single publication that penetrates that zip code. And it will do it. It won't rank it by size overall. It won't put a national ahead. It'll put local right up there next to national and everything in between. Any publication that is selling advertising in that zip code gets listed. To give you an idea of the scale of the Media Intelligence Center and how many media buyers are in there, I took a look at just the last 2 months. Just this morning, I said, you know what? How many media buyers have interacted in the Media Intelligence Center in the last 2 months? There have been almost 30,000 media buyer interactions in the Media Intelligence Center in the last 60 days. So that's almost 500 events a day. Now, when I say an event, that is downloading a PDF of a report, or looking up a quarterly data report, or using our newspaper analyzer tool. There are a number of different ways that a brand can be discovered, but 500 times a day that's happening just from our media buyers. So it's a pretty powerful, it's a very powerful ecosystem, and it drives a lot of buying decisions. Outside of that, we have proprietary data feeds set up with a number of organizations so that they don't have to go into the Media Intelligence Center. Novus, Best Buy, NSA Media gets a feed, I believe, every week or every other week. Save-A-Lot is a customer of theirs, so our AAM data feeds into the NSA Media's enterprise system, and they can make their buying decisions there. The third way that AAM data kind of spiderwebs out into the ecosystem is with our industry partners. So a good example is Kantar Media. Kantar goes in, takes our database of your data, of our news media organization data, and they port it into their own database. So their media buyers are in their database, but they're using AAM data still to make those decisions. So kind of when you multiply it out, that data gets exponentially spread out into the marketplace. The third thing I want to talk about is differentiating your brand. And that goes with, against your fellow brands and just against television and radio. Probably the best way to market and monetize your brand is by differentiation. And so the question is, how can you do that within the structure of a third-party verifier like AAM? We have developed a new way for our news media organizations to put their best foot forward for those 15,000 buyer lookups per month. And that differentiator is called Brand View. Brand View is a new interface for the Media Intelligence Center. It gives our clients a new way to show their impact, to show the impact of their publication in the community, and it's available for no additional cost. That, I think, is the most compelling argument for this. It's a no additional cost. It's a value add for our members. Let's go into a couple examples here. Let's do, actually, I have some slides here, but let me exit out of this, and let's go. I'm going to show you a live example of Brand View. Currently in the Media Intelligence Center, let me log back in here very quickly. We'll do this real quick. Apologies for that. Okay, so we're back in. This is the beta environment. When a media buyer goes in now with Brand View and they look up, say, the Kansas City Star, they'll click on it, as you saw it come up there. You could also do it by zip code. And you'll see this tabbed interface. Previously, or what is in the Media Intelligence Center now, are just two simple tabs, and that is the Quarterly Reporting tab, which shows some data, and the Reports Library tab, which shows the audit reports. So not a real good way for the Kansas City Star to put their best foot forward. Now with Brand View, you'll see it's a tabbed interface, and it's segmented out by the channels that are reporting within AAM. So there's an opportunity to upload logos, images, media kit, or a link to the media kit. And really what this is, the link to the media kit especially, and some other things that I'm going to show you, it's 1 or 2 degrees of separation from that Media Intelligence Center to an action, to the media buyer pulling the trigger and spending money with your organization. Whereas before with AAM data, they would get the data, but then they would have to kind of do some of the legwork themselves to figure out how to contact someone at your organization. Now that's all done, that's all embedded right there in the AAM ecosystem. There's a field of rich text here that can be clicked on, and that can go straight through to your sales page or your marketing pages. The graphs are all imported automatically. The graphs are dynamic. The data is imported automatically from the latest quarterly data reports, so you don't have to worry about rekeying any data. Print distribution here, again, you can see how there is an opportunity to put your best foot forward. With hyperlinks, you can hyperlink email addresses as well, and you can also hyperlink phone numbers. This is also shareable with a link. So say your sales team meets with the car dealership that just opened up. They really want the account. So you meet in person, you present some proposals, and then you send that thank you email immediately afterwards. In that thank you email, you can include this link, and it'll act as a media kit if you don't have a media kit. If you do have a media kit, this plays perfectly with it. It really complements a media kit very well. So you have a couple different ways that you can play this, but they're both ways that help drive that revenue to your organization. Now, I know we're kind of coming up on the half hour here, and I definitely don't want to go over. The last thing I'll show you here is the Learn More tab, and this is a free form sort of template where you can mention all of your publications, even publications that aren't verified with AAM. Those can go into this as well, because we want you to be able to put your best foot forward to show your total footprint in the market. Kansas City Star does a great job. They even mention the philanthropy that they're doing in their market, which is something I strongly encourage. Almost all of you do tremendous things in your market on a philanthropic level. You either have started your own charities, or you're partnering with the charities that are active in your marketplace, and you're doing some amazing things. And those are the things that advertisers, it really connects with them on a personal level. And it helps create that relationship with the advertisers. So with that in mind, I do want to leave a few minutes for questions. So let me get back into the presentation here. Switch this over. And we'll go back to where we ended up. And Peter, I'll ask if there are any questions as I close out here.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see any questions at the moment. If anybody does have one, go ahead and put them in the question box, which is usually located on the right side of your screen.
Very good. And the last point I want to make too is how easy it is to get started with BrandView. It's as simple as uploading a logo, which you already have, your publication description, which you should already have. If you don't, this is a good exercise in doing that. And then some promotional images, the link to the media kit, and details about your verified channels, and then some hyperlinks to your sales and marketing staff. This is a great way to drive that additional revenue, to get in front of more media buyers. Again, that's 500 events a day in the Media Intelligence Center. Those are media buyers that are in there looking to spend money. And this is a good way to get discovered and to show up in front of them. So with no additional questions, I'd just like to thank everyone for your time today. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, concerns, if you want to, if you had some questions that you want to ask offline, if you're curious about how to get started with BrandView or membership, anything like that, I'm here to help. Or if you just want to talk industry, I love doing that, as I hope you could tell from the last half hour. I'd be more than happy to connect with you and carry on the conversation.
Great. Well, thank you, Kevin. Thank you, everybody, for being on the webinar today. And we hope to see you Thursday when we have another Local Media Association webinar. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.